Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. A while back I did a video on travel nursing. It wasn't really a video, it was more of a slideshow consisting of some of the photos that I took on my last travel assignment. And don't get me wrong, they were really nice photos, but I wasn't sure how much time I was gonna have, so I pretty much rushed through a lot of the information that I wanted to share with you. And as from one nurse to another, I want you to be as informed as possible when you make the decision to travel. So if you're interested in finding out some of the ins and outs, some of the do's and don'ts, please. Tip number one, do your homework as far as your agencies are concerned. And when I say agencies, I mean agencies. I think a lot of nurses make the mistake of getting with one particular agency and not having other eggs in the basket. When I was looking for travel opportunities, I would have 3 or 4 different agencies looking for me all at once. And the reason that I say that is because the salaries are going to vary. There may be 3 different agencies with the position at hospital A, and agency number 1 may be offering you X number of dollars. Agency number 2 may offer you $200 or $300 more, and so on and so on. So the first thing that I always looked at was the agency that paid the most money, because I mean, travel nursing is lucrative, or it can be lucrative if you play your cards right. So the top dollar was the one that always got my attention the most. The second thing was the different perks that they have. Were they maxing out your stipends? Did they offer a travel bonus? Did they offer a completion bonus? Things like that. And when I say max out your stipends, the way that you make money in travel nursing is through your government subsidized allowances. That's called your travel allowances, or your free money, or your tax-free money, because you're paid an hourly rate and then you're paid your stipend. Your stipend is tax-free and it's paid to you because you are working away from home. Generally, you want your hourly rate to never be any less than $20 an hour. Anything less than that is kind of a red flag for the IRS, so you want to kind of stay out of that danger zone, because the IRS doesn't play. Take it from me, they do not. Stipends, in order to find out how much the area that you're looking for is offering, there is a GSA calculator that you can download on your phone, or you can go to their website. And say, for example, if you wanted to work in New York City's GSA, or the amount the government allows for you to work in that geographic area, is probably going to be higher than Hazard, Kentucky, because New York is a more metropolitan area and they understand that the cost of living is a bit more expensive than in other places. Now, another thing that some nurses do, instead of taking the tax-free stipend, they allow the company to keep the stipend and find housing for them. And we'll get into that a little bit later. I always kept the stipend and found housing for myself, because if you're getting a $2,000 a week stipend, surely I can find a place that doesn't cost $2,000 a week and I'm able to pocket that extra money for myself. So that was always the way that I, went about it. I wanted my hourly rate, I wanted my stipend for myself, and the rest I would take care of on my own. But if you don't get anything out of tip number 1 other than make sure you have more than one agency, more than one recruiter working for you, remember that and keep that in mind when you start looking. Tip number 2, certifications, skills checklists, and testing. Most of the companies are going to have some type of testing that you're going to have to take, so just be prepared for that. Your skills checklist is something that you'll have to fill out with any company that you fill out an application with or are interested in working for. One thing I would like to tell you is take your time on your skills checklist, and if you document that you are proficient in that skill, make sure that you are proficient in that skill. That is important. And if you get to a facility and there's something on the checklist that you indicated that you were proficient in, but you're really not, it could create a problem. There have been stories of nurses who have never worked in anything but maybe a nursing home, putting down proficiencies in ICU skills, going to a facility, attempting to work in the ICU, and then getting sent home. I mean, why would you even put yourself through that? Make sure that all of your certifications are current. What I do with my certifications is take photos of them with my phone. And by doing that, I'm able to either upload them via email to my recruiter or send them in a text message. I mean, technology has made that type of thing very easy. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, the interview. So you've decided what facility you want to be submitted to by your recruiter. The recruiter will call you back if you are one of the candidates for the position. I'm not really sure if they actually have a pool of candidates and then they just call a bunch of people on the phone and, do the little phone interview. I don't know about that, but that's how they say it works. But you will get a phone call the majority of the time. I don't think there's been an assignment that I've ever accepted that I didn't get a phone call from management regarding. So once you get the phone call, management is going to ask you the basic interview questions. Just try to be relaxed, be yourself, answer the questions, but you also need to have some specific questions for them. Number 1, scrub colors. I cannot tell you how many times I have made the mistake of thinking that it was going to be cool to wear whatever I wanted to wear, when in all actuality, some facilities, believe it or not, even in this day and time, require certain colors. So keep that in mind as far as an expense you might have to incur up front, because you may not have that particular color. Fortunately, a couple of the places I have worked, they didn't care what you wore as long as you were clean, and that's what I like. But that's not always the case. Also ask them about any ancillary staff that they have on the units. Like in the emergency room, do you have a phlebotomist or a med lab tech that's in the, on the unit? Do you have EMTs, patient care techs, unit secretaries? Just kind of get a feel for their core staffing for the unit, so you'll have a better idea of what you're going into. Another thing I often would ask would be about block scheduling. If you're traveling to a location that isn't too far away, like for me, when I went from Mississippi to California, block scheduling really didn't matter, because even on my days off, there was no way that I was going to be able to go back home on every time that I was off work. But if it's a place that's maybe 5 or 6 hours away, you might want to consider block scheduling and see if they have block scheduling where you could work 6 days in a row, be off 8 days. That way on your days off, you can go back home, take care of things, check on your family. But if you were like me, or if you wind up being like me and are 3,000 miles away, it really doesn't matter. Most work weeks with travel companies are going to be 36-hour work weeks. Sometimes they will have positions that are 48 hours, 4 12-hour shifts. I kind of like to keep it with the three 12-hour shifts, the 36 hours, because believe it or not, that 4th day, it can be kind of tough. They'll present that to you because that 48-hour work week is going to make your check look bigger, or they may say, 36 hours, it's a guaranteed $2,000 a week. 48 hours is a guaranteed $2,700 a week. And that does look good and that does sound better, and it's all in what you're able to do. But for me, 36 hours a week was enough. I just wanted to make sure that I got with the company that was offering top dollar for those 36 hours. Tip number 5, housing. Housing is going to be your big expense and your biggest headache. So one thing that you could do to totally alleviate that is let the agency find housing for you. If you do that though, you'll lose your weekly stipend. My advice to you would be to keep the stipend, which is tax-free money that you get paid every single week, and find your own housing. The reason I say that is because that tax-free money is really the way that nurses make their money in the travel nursing industry. And if you jump on the responsibility of finding housing right away, it won't be as big of a headache as it could possibly be, but in all honesty, it's gonna be a headache. So jump on it right away. In my previous video, I mentioned utilizing Facebook. There are several travel nurse groups on Facebook. The Gypsy Travel Nurse Group has several different groups that you can join. One is solely for housing. One is for travel opportunities. One is just a sounding board about experiences that travel nurses have had at different facilities or with different recruiters. So they're out there. If you haven't seen them, find them, join them, and just kind of get a feel for what everybody is talking about, but jump on housing right away. I personally was never interested in just a room. That's one housing option that a lot of nurses love. I can't imagine living in a person's house in a room. Some of the ways that they would have it set up, you had your own entrance, you had your own bathroom, you had your own little kitchenette. Some of the spaces were shared. There was one house in California that was fantastic. Whoever owned the house rented all 3 bedrooms in the home to individual nurses who shared a common space like a den. They shared the kitchen, and each bedroom had its own individual bathroom. Now, if we were 3 nurses doing that, I would be kind of cool with that, but I wouldn't want to live like down the hall in the Griswold house, if you know what I mean. That wouldn't work for me. If you don't listen to anything else, stay away from Craigslist. I have heard nurses that have had good experiences with Craigslist, but every listing I checked when I was looking for housing for California was a scam. I mean, an absolute scam. Never send any money, never do anything like that before you get there, see the location, and then conduct business. Never let them get you to convince you to send them any money. No, no, and no. Tip number 6, you may want to take your vehicle, you may not. It's totally up to you. In more metropolitan areas, not having a vehicle is not a deal breaker because of public transportation. Another thing that I was able to utilize in California, although I took my car, I had family come to stay with me while I was out there who flew, and they needed a vehicle. So what I did was gave them my vehicle, and I rented a vehicle from I call it like a mom and pop business, but there was a couple who rented cars to nurses on a weekly basis. The mileage was unlimited. All you had to do was just promise them that you wouldn't leave the area. I guess they wouldn't want you, like on your days off driving their little rental back to Mississippi, which was perfectly fine with me. And believe it or not, I think the weekly rental was maybe like $110, which was a steal. So those are just options that you can think about. And, you can take your car, whatever works for you. Tip number 7, once you've made the decision and you're at your facility and you're ready to go to work, let's get it. It's time. The plan is over. The process for even getting you to this point has taken probably several weeks, and it can be overwhelming. Seriously, it can. But you're a travel nurse. This is what you want to do, and I can assure you that after you get those few little kinks ironed out when you first get there, you're going to absolutely love the experience. You're going to have some staff members that are thrilled to see you there. You're going to have some staff members that are just drinking a little bit too much haterade, and that's kind of expected. And then you're going to have some other travelers there as well. So it's all in what you make it. Just keep a positive outlook. Know that you know that you know, and do what you came there to do, and that's take care of patients. Another thing I wanted to mention to you too that I forgot to mention in one of the previous tips is when you're having the interview, make sure that you ask about nurse-patient ratios. Certain parts of the country have mandatory nurse-patient ratios, but you would be surprised at areas that do not. I kid you not. I was doing a phone interview a couple of years back with a hospital in New Jersey, and I asked them what the nurse-patient ratio was, and they told me it was 10 to 1. Now, they were offering like $3,700 a week or some crazy amount like that, which was awesome. But 10 to 1 nurse-patient ratio, you can keep the 3,700, you can keep the 5,700. There's no way you can take care of 10 patients safely. That's just my personal opinion. Some people may argue with me about that, but I mean, I'm solid in the way that I feel about that. That's my opinion, and I promise you, I own that one. Tip number 8, extension. All right, you're at your facility, you're feeling it, the staff is feeling you, everything's going great, you've settled in, and you think that you might want to do another 13 weeks exactly where you are. Now, there are some nurses who will not stay for an extension to save their life. They do 13 weeks, they're in, they're out. You know, they're ready to go to their next assignment. So however you like to do it, whether you plan on staying or whether you plan on your recruiter finding you another facility to work at, make sure you start getting that ball rolling about midway through this particular assignment. So around week, I would say 7, no later than week 8, start talking with your recruiter about them broaching the subject of you extending at the facility where you currently are, or let them know what your next plan of action is. You know, okay, I did this 13 weeks in Illinois. I think I want to do Maine this fall, or I think I want to do North Dakota, or I think I want to do Tennessee. Wherever it is you want to go, just stay ahead of the game, and that way there won't be a delay in your employment. Because a lot of times if you wait too long, it takes a while to find that next assignment. So always stay ahead of the game. So that brings us to the end of this video. There is one last tip, tip number 9. Enjoy yourself. There are very few professions that afford you the opportunity to go to any part of the country that you want, work, make good money, and enjoy yourself while you're doing it. Network with some of the other travelers that are at the facility in the area, or just, hey, jump on a bus or grab an Uber and just go out and sightsee. Just live and you know, just appreciate the experience. I don't really know what else to say. It gives me goosebumps because I had such a good time when I was traveling. And so I just want you to remember, in all that we've talked about, enjoy yourself. You only get one life. Make it count.